What is going down, faithful? Happy Thursday to you all. I don't know if you guys can smell that. Smells like a lot of smoke. Oh, if we smell that smoke, you know what time it is. It's officially smoke season, baby. And it's time to get to the bottom of all these rumors out here. And you know, we've been smoke chasers for a minute. So this is our specialty. We hunt down rumors. Are they true? Are they not? And we talk about it all. And we've already got trade rumors, Deebo Samuel. We've heard from Trey Lance debunking rumors. Woo! Smoke season is here, ladies and gentlemen. You already know the vibes. Drop your smoke emojis in the chat. Let me see all that smoke in the chat. And then smash that like button. Let's get this thing cooking. Smash that like button if you haven't already. Love to see it. So as you guys know, if you've rocked with us before, smoke season is a real thing. Rumors, unnamed sources, leaks, etc., etc., etc. Players liking social media posts, all that type of stuff. It's smoke season. The number one tool to have for smoke season, tinfoil hat. Get yourself a tinfoil hat. This one is branded. We've got the branded SF Niners tinfoil hat. This is the OG tinfoil hat. This was I made this up like 2 years ago. OG tinfoil hat, original, one of one. But it's that time of the year, ladies and gentlemen. Get one of these. It'll save you from all the ton of rumors that we are going to get from here on to OTAs, regular season, doesn't matter. So get ready because it is here. Let's hop right into it. We're going to get right into all the smoke because there's already smoke around the San Francisco 49ers. And we'll set it up like this. The media, national media, whatever it is, they know that the San Francisco 49er fan base is one of the most engaging fan bases in the NFL. We stay with our team year round. In the off season, we engage probably more so than any other fan base online, whatever it is. We don't sleep. We ingest San Francisco 49ers content 24/7. So part of this is understanding that they know that. All right? They know that. So they understand it's really easy to link things to the San Francisco 49ers, and guess what it's going to do? It's going to generate conversation. It's going to generate some clickage. So that's why we are always inundated with so much rumors and smoke. It's really easy to get the content machine going with our fan base because we want to know what's going on all the time. And so a lot of teams, a lot of other teams will link everything to the 49ers because, hey, it's a slow time of the year for some people. So they got to do what they got to do. It's going to happen. But we are here to say, is this real? Is this not real? And all the in-betweens. Shout out Cash the God. Thank you for renewing your membership, my boy. Shout out to all the SDS out there. Smash that like button if you haven't already. But we're getting into that point where we are in full-blown off-season mode. The Super Bowl has ended, and we are now into the rumor season, a.k.a. smoke season. We chase the smoke around here. We are the smoke chasers because that's what we do in the offseason. We take our evaluation cap off because there's no more football to evaluate outside of draft prospects and things like that. And that we have draft season as well. But smoke season has popped up today. So we are going to talk about it. And let's get into our first smoke. If you can see right here, we may have a co-host today, maybe surprise co-host, could happen. So just fair warning, could have a co-host today. It is my co-host nap time. So the thought here is he's still awake, but he's tired. It's nappy time. So he's right here. I could see him. He's in earshot. But I'm in that category of I work from home, but I have a babysitter when I work from home. Like, so I'm here, but typically have a babysitter. Babysitter couldn't make it today. But as we know, the show goes on. So just in case, we might see an appearance from the little one, maybe, but it actually does look like he's nodding off. So that's a good sign for us. 8 months today. Crazy. 8 months. Time flies. I know a lot of you guys were rocking with me during that time. He's 8 months. Crazy. Feels like yesterday. But let's get into it. Just wanted to warn you guys of what could potentially be happening on this live. But all things considered, we should be good to go. All right, let's get into our first smoke of the off season, shall we? Let's get into it right meow. Because if you guys haven't heard already, there are a couple little trade. I don't even know if you would call them rumors. No, it's a rumor. It's definitely a rumor. We got some trade rumors popping up here with Deebo Samuel. So as we know, we were 100% just overwhelmed by the amount of Deebo Samuel smoke that happened last year. I know you guys remember that whole scenario. Deebo requesting the trade and then just the whole like social media firestorm that followed. So we get Deebo into camp. We pay Deebo. All that smoke is gone. Right? Wrong. It is back. So we got to talk about it because we chase down the smoke. We discern whether or not this is real smoke or not. And so we've got this from Mike Cadlick. Says, for what it's worth, I am James Stewart just mentioned on Felger and Maz that the Patriots may be, quote, sniffing around on wide receiver Deebo Samuel this offseason. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. We got people sniffing around. Sniffing around on Deebo Samuel. What are they sniffing? First of all, because Deebo Samuel is currently under contract. If the San Francisco 49ers were going to trade Deebo Samuel, they would inquire a $39 million dead cap hit next season. Does that make a lot of sense? do we feel like John Lynch, Kyle Shanahan are like a Dave Gettleman? You know, we didn't sign OBJ to trade him. Wrong. We knew you signed OBJ to trade him. I don't think that's the way the 49ers are rocking on this one. I think they genuinely want Deebo Samuel around. They didn't want to trade him. And last year would have been his highest peak value because for the 49ers, they would have been able to trade him without any cap ramifications. And two, it was after Deebo Samuel had one of the most electrifying seasons that we've seen from any football player in a long time. And even then, the 49ers were not getting the trade compensation it required to move Deebo at that point. What changes? Deebo didn't have as stellar. He's had a good year, but he didn't have as stellar of a year last year. Then on top of that, San Francisco 49ers would incur a massive dead cap hit. Cap. All the cap. And again, sniff around all you want. Sniff away because it's a bunch of farts. This is what they do all the sniffing that you want, but it's not going to smell good. It's not. So that's fine. You could sniff around whoever you want. You could sniff around Trey Lance. You could sniff around Brandon Ayuk. Sniff around Fred Warner. Nick Bosa. It's not going to smell good. It's not. So you can sniff all you want, but what is that going to do for you? It's not going to do a whole lot. Now, and I really don't see, I mean, we saw the San Francisco 49ers trade away DeForest Buckner, and that was a huge shock to the system. I know we all remember that. It's still burned into our brains, and it wasn't that long ago. So we remember that. We've seen the San Francisco 49ers trade away Quan Alexander. I'm trying to think of some other big players that they've traded. I think that's about it under Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch. But again, they traded, I think, both players amidst needing new contracts, right? So DeForest Buckner in that same kind of situation that Deebo was in. And they, from what I've heard, take it for what it's worth. I've heard DeForest requested the trade. But again, take it for what it's worth. Per sources, I heard DeForest requested the trade. And it was kind of a duality situation. So, but since then, the San Francisco 49ers haven't moved any big pieces. And I think at this point, it would be a little earth-shattering to see if they were to trade anyone that had a big name with the San Francisco 49ers. Ayuk, Kittle, Deebo, Lance, Fred Warner, Bosa, Hufanga, anyone. It would just be a big shock. So I don't see the feasibility of a trade of Deebo Samuel right now. If they were going to trade Deebo, it was going to happen. It was going to happen last year. That's really what it comes down to. But unfortunately, I think someone just said that either they don't like Deebo's contract, but that's the point. It's like Deebo's locked in. Deebo's going to be a San Francisco 49er for a long time, and that's the 49ers decided that when they signed him to that contract. You know what I'm saying? So, with that being said, again, all these teams can sniff around on Deebo all they want, but at the end of the day, it just doesn't make sense, because if they couldn't get it done last year, why would they get it done this year? Just doesn't make sense. That's my opinion on it. That's we've chased down quite a bit of smoke in our time, and that's what our expert opinion has us saying, that there's no real validity to any of it. But something that we did talk a ton about last year, we talked about so much, because remember the whole Trey Lance arm fatigue. Then this year we've got the Trey Lance trade rumors, because he did fingers crossed emojis when Rand Carthon, former pro personnel director for the San Francisco 49ers, was hired by the Tennessee Titans as their general manager. He posted it onto his story, fingers crossed emoji, which he does on damn near everything. But clearly some beat reporters, I don't even think they were 49ers beat reporters, but clearly some reporter that is not in tune with social media. And again, this is where you got to be in today's NFL and covering the NFL. You have to know what social media is. You have to be able to discern and understand millennials and now Gen Z. You have to understand and be able to psychoanalyze social media habits and behaviors to be able to actually report on it. Because what you do without understanding these things is you take a player who puts a finger crossed emoji on an image of Rand Carthon going to the Titans, and you put it out there to the world. Oh, Trey Lance wants to go to the Titans. It's like, listen, boomer, that's not how this works. It is not how this social media does not work like that. Like, Trey Lance isn't going out of his way to be like, get me to the Titans, so everyone, and post it to the world so everyone can see it. Social media is the new media. This is where it's at. You get on board or you're going to get left. It's really where it's at. These next 2 to 3 years are going to be pivotal in sports media, because the landscape has changed. It's changing. It has changed, and it will continue to change. So that's just where we're at. That's the state of sports media. It's all changing. And so you have to be able to understand what social media is and how to translate it. Clearly, this guy didn't understand that and started, a whole Trey Lance getting traded. And of course, you have the other people that don't understand it, and they're like, they start to psychoanalyze fingers crossed emojis, when it's just wild. It's a wild time to be alive. But let's listen to Trey Lance himself, shall we? I think it's worth taking a listen to what he had to say on the topic, because he also talked fatigue thing, and we'll address the arm fatigue thing, because we talked about that a whole lot. So if you haven't listened to it yet, I'll pull it up right now. We'll listen into it right now. Trey Lance went on with Quincy Avery. If you aren't familiar, Quincy Avery is his quarterbacks coach that he trains with in the offseason, draft prep, all that type of stuff. This is the conversation that they had today. So let's listen to it, and then we'll discuss it, because we spent a lot of time last year talking about this. So let's listen in, and we'll talk about it on the other
always side. Instagram story stuff. We're posting when guys get jobs, XYZ. You put your finger cross emoji.
Ran,
Can you explain to people? Yeah, like Ran, good dude. I talk to him all the time, but explain to people like I don't want to speak for you, but I feel like I know what it is. Can you just tell 49ers fans like what that means to you?
Yeah, I never talked about it at all. We're trying to stay out of the media for it, but I didn't even I go on Instagram and I'll look at my teammates stuff, the team stuff, got stuff like that, stuff about that, my family stuff like that. I don't spend a whole lot of time, especially over this last year. Like, it's been great for me to just be off of social media. Like, I'm not on Instagram on daily even. So for me, it's like I just want to support guys. Like, I repost my Instagram today this whole season was probably more of a 49ers fan page than anything. Like just showing guys support. Ray's got a cool outfit. Aziz got a cool video. Fred, whatever it was, and then obviously the Rand stuff. So me and Rand got real close over the last. I wouldn't say super close, but we talked on the regular. And he'd bring his boys in. I would hang out with his kids in the training room. So it was always, for me, it was huge. Like, they were like a shining light. Like, they come in and show me how many push-ups they could do and stuff like that. So just getting to know someone's family like that, I was super happy for him for the opportunity. So yeah, the fingers crossed emojis now. Like, man, I'm crossing my fingers on the Tennessee Titans. But
you just show support. Like, it's showing love.
Yeah, totally. Like, I cross my fingers, man. I love it here. I don't ever want to be anywhere else. But yeah,
we'll send that to each other in a text message. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think people know. It is probably a cultural thing. Like, we're younger. You're really young, but we're younger dudes. Like, that's just how you would talk to somebody. Little finger cross, you know what I'm saying? We locked in. I'm happy for you support.
That's probably my number one used emoji too. I didn't know. Kyle told me the next morning. I remember we walked into install meeting. Kyle's like, "Have you seen everything? People saying you're going to the Titans and stuff." I'm like, man, what are you talking about? And he's like, I just saw it. He's like, this people talking crazy. People don't know what they're talking about. Whatever. He's like, I just thought it was funny this morning. I was like, he was actually the one that told me about it. I didn't see anything.
Now, next thing I want.
Isn't that funny? It's hilarious. It's funny how, again, they alluded to it. Like when he says cultural thing. We're at that stage now where, Gen Z is becoming one of the main consumers of content and things like that, and so they have an influence now. It was millennials. I'm a millennial, so then it's Gen Z's now coming up, and so it's definitely a different way of communicating. But it is just funny how something so simple and something he does all the time. He really does do that on almost every post, every comment. It's finger crossed emojis. So it's an interesting, dynamic. But again, this is kind of where we're seeing, that transition. This is part of that transition, like we've talked about, and where sports media is headed, and who consumes sports media and all that stuff. So it's an interesting time to be alive. But as we heard all the rumors. People are actually, because you hear it kind of so many people are talking about it at one point. Clearly Kyle Shanahan even heard about it and had to be like, so are you going to the Titans? And it's just funny, like, to see how things kind of spin out of control. But also, not only that, we spent so much. Like, we had a hashtag arm fatigue. We like tried to make light of it. And, we spent a lot of time talking about it because you heard a lot from Mike Silver. You heard a lot from Colin Cowherd about this arm fatigue. And I'll revisit some of those conversations because, again, we talked about it so much. But let's listen to what Trey had to say about it and how, because he talks directly to it. So let's listen to it.
I want to ask you about. Okay, you mentioned your arm fatigue. I think people were seeing you say that, and I saw on Twitter like people talk about it, and I don't want people to get the wrong idea, like that you had. I think that you threw the ball. Coming from your last year of college football to your rookie season, you throw the ball more than you will ever throw a football in your life. Right? Because this is the only time you do not get a break from a football season, training, draft prep right into the season. So arm fatigue, really, you're just saying like you had to throw a lot. There's a lot of NFL guys who might not throw at all until March, April.
Yeah.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but you're just saying like your arm is just tired from lots of throws.
Yeah, it was just honestly just too. I don't know if there's someone out there, a quarterback that can throw that much. I mean, it was just realistically going back, COVID, and then I started throwing in May because I was rehabbing my hip. So that was when I started getting the ball back in my hand in May. So I threw from May 2020 all the way through that year, draft prep, get drafted the next April. So at that point, I had been throwing for a year straight, and then go through that whole season until the next January. So I'd say probably, I don't know, about 20 months straight of throwing, like I said, probably a week off in there. Maybe I don't even know if I took a whole week between that whole time, but through that whole season, I threw for probably 20 months straight. Probably three times a week.
You and I had the longest draft prep. I and Jamie had the longest draft prep. Anybody ever. So I don't think anybody can compare anything to that.
Do mushrooms freak you out?
So I don't know if you guys remember, and we just heard from Trey Lance on that. That's kind of what we talked about on this channel. Remember, there was a very specific way of how that conversation was going, right? And we talked about it. We even prefaced it almost exactly like Trey Lance and Quincy Avery talked about. Apologies for the mushroom. What we said last year is like, because the way it was being discussed was like it was a trait. Like the trait was he's got like a fatigued arm. Like it just doesn't last long. He gets tired easily. Like, remember, I don't know if you guys remember that. Like, we were talking about that a lot. Like, because what I would say was, I don't like how they're talking about it. What we can rationalize was exactly what they said. Trey had been draft prepping for so long and throwing a lot and training a lot. And we could rationalize getting your arm tired. The other thing that we would talk about a lot was the fact that he was changing his mechanics. If you work out, you're a body lifter, whatever, anything you do, whether you're a golfer, like if you tweak something in your technique and that triggers a maybe different muscle that you would typically use if you're tight with your spiral and you go to open it up, like, yes, you can theoretically engage different muscle groups, put strain on different muscles and tendons, and that could give you a bit of soreness, and it could take some time to strengthen that up. And as we knew, Trey Lance went into training camp, they deconstructed his throwing motion and built it back up from the ground up. So we would talk about that all the time. We said we can all rationalize Trey Lance relearning how to throw and his arm getting sore, just like you lift weights. We talked about this nonstop. So I'm glad that he addressed it, because that's how we rationalized it. Again, but that's not how it was discussed in the media. How it was discussed in the media was that it was like a trait. Like it was, you have like, how would you describe traits on a player? Like good base, you have quick release, things like that. It was just like arm fatigue. It was like that was one of his traits. And it was like, that doesn't make sense. That's why we roasted it so much, because it's like they're talking about arm fatigue as if it's a part of him, like, and it's going to maintain for his entirety of his career. And that's what that's why we roasted it, because it's like, that doesn't make sense. We can absolutely we can absolutely rationalize that his arm got tired from throwing a lot. That makes sense. But what we couldn't rationalize was how they were discussing and prefacing the arm fatigue and what it was. So I'm glad he was able to address it, because it does feel like it's right on par with how we talked about it. So again, everything can be spun, right? Everything can be spun. It doesn't matter. My Brandon Ayuk interview got spun for content. People used it for their own content. That's fine. But just like anyone can spin anything. Trey Lance, yeah, my arm was tired. I threw a lot of footballs. Yeah, that makes sense. We talked about that. We talked about that in real time. We said, yeah, we can rationalize that. But this narrative that it's as if it were a trait was ridiculous. Like it was something that was going to maintain. So I'm glad he was able to address that. But again, that's why we gather here. That's why the tinfoil hat is undefeated, because we sift through all these narratives, all this talk, and we try to get to the bottom of it. We don't try to spin it. We don't try to spin it out of control to just to generate content. We actually try to understand it. We actually try to look at all sides. We actually try to, what's Trey Lance's perspective? What would the coaching staff's perspective be? What was the trainer's perspective? What is the media's perspective? And we try to make sense of it. That's what we do on this channel. Other people are just going to, arm fatigue, bust, arm fatigue. It's like, just relax. Relax, people. Yan says the arm fatigue rumor was true. Mike didn't have to tell all the details. The arm fatigue was true, and the team was worried. So what we're talking about is how they reported that information. We all remember how they reported that information, and it was reported in a very specific way. There wasn't context. There was no context attached to it, which is why we had to add the context. Just like Trey Lance just added the context to it. Back to what we're talking about. So you can spin anything to be a negative or a positive. You could spin his arm fatigue as a positive. Let me show you. Trey Lance has been working so hard for the last, I don't know, since May to training camp, that he has thrown 5,000 football. He has thrown the football 50,000 times, whatever. And his arm's tired. That just shows a testament to how much Trey Lance works and how dedicated he is to getting better and how he can continue to improve his craft. You could spin it however you want. So we talked about it a lot. I remember it all, man. I remember it all. And I'm not saying that Mike Silver is wrong in what was reported, but there's a way that you can go about reporting things. That's it. And, with, like, let's say Coward, for example, Coward would say, he's got arm fatigue. That's why he's probably going to be a bust. Right? Like Coward used that for whatever reasons he had, wink, wink, nod, nod, you might know what they are. But it's just how it works, man. So we remember it all. And that's why we don't try to take things and run with it. We try to take things and break it apart and try to understand like what is really being said here. And again, this Trey Lance interview, again, another win for the SDS, because that's how we interpreted it. But that's not how that came across. It didn't come across like that at all. It didn't come across like that at all. So that's how it goes. So we're here. We're back. We're back into listening to all the narratives, breaking them apart, going after the spin doctors, and getting to the bottom of it. So that's where we're at. Fun time to be alive. It's the off season. We're back. Feels great, doesn't it? Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait to see what the next one is. The next rumor is going to be fun, man. It's going to be a blast. I can't wait. But they're just going to keep going. But as it stands right now, thoughts on Breer's report on Lance. I really don't think there's anything new. I really don't think Albert said anything new. I mean, we could even pull it up and kind of work our way through it. What Albert said, it was really just a reiteration of kind of what we knew. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we knew that Brock Purdy, prior to injury, was probably going to be the quarterback one heading into OTAs. I don't think that's much of a surprise to anyone. I know some people might not like it because they are big Trey Lance fans and they want Trey Lance to get an opportunity, which totally understandable. That makes perfect sense. But if we look at it from a football standpoint and the reality of it, Brock Purdy clearly proved what he was capable of. And so, and I'll pull it up here just so you can read it if you want. But basically, he says, if Purdy doesn't hurt his elbow, Brock Purdy's going to be starting OTAs as quarterback one. I don't think that's crazy. George Kittle said the same thing. And I think if you just look at the body of work, I think that makes sense. There's nothing wrong with that. Trey's coming back from injury. We understand at a certain point, not everything is given. For reference points, like Tom Brady was pick 199, and he took the highest paid player in the history of the league's job, and he jumped him at the end of the year. Like, we've seen instances of this happening, so I don't think it's crazy to think that Brock Purdy would have been the starting quarterback. He would have been the first quarterback under center in OTAs. But now, as we already know, Brock Purdy, best case scenario, will be back in training camp, which is pretty much what is said here, which gives Trey Lance a good opportunity to kind of regain that, one, confidence, and two, be able to get back into the groove of being quarterback one and not have to, again, be in this weird pressure vacuum like he's been in with Jimmy. You can now take yourself out of that, and he can operate in OTAs as quarterback one, barring any crazy move at quarterback. But, he goes on to say, like, and again, I think we all agree with this, like, Lance is well liked and works his tail off. That's never been a question. He goes on to say he's not as skilled as a runner as the Niners have hoped, but he's big, strong athlete. I think we would all kind of agree with that. Like, Lance isn't a Justin Fields type runner. He's a downhill runner, but that isn't even like what his main skill set was. You know what I'm saying? Like, to me, I looked at Lance as a pro style quarterback with an ability to run. Maybe you pulled it out every once in a while, but I think one of the things that Lance can do is he can move in the pocket really well, and he can escape the pocket really well. I don't necessarily think that's translates into being like a designed like running quarterback. I think he's a quarterback who can run. I think those are two different things. So again, nothing here is a surprise. We understand. I agree that he's well liked, and I agree he works his tail off. I agree that he's not as skilled as a runner as maybe they would have hoped for. But that doesn't mean he can't run or isn't a good runner. I just don't think he's a running quarterback. I think he's a pocket quarterback who can run. And I think there's a difference there. And that's why I've always been really adamant about letting him pass from the pocket, let him operate the play action game. And then if things break down, he can escape and pick up those yards with his feet. We've talked about that a ton. I've never viewed him as a running quarterback. I've viewed him as a quarterback who can run, if that makes sense. He goes on to say, the question really is whether he can improve as a passer. He's not that natural of a thrower of the ball, which I don't necessarily disagree with. He can make every throw. But again, we've talked about this. He can make all the throws, but he right now has struggled the past couple training camps with making all the throws consistently. That's it. He can make the deep throws. He can make the throws on the move. He can hit slants. He can hit outs. He can hit digs. He can hit everything. But it's just the consistency involved that we're just waiting for, because again, there's a lot of factors. Trey Lance had his throwing motion completely retooled. There's going to be a little bit of a work in progress regards to him getting comfortable. We saw his motion look like it settled in between going from year one to year two, and it's continuing to build upon that. So again, nothing here to me is new information. But he goes on to say, but Jalen Hurts wasn't either, and he developed, so it can happen. That's what we've known all along. That's why me personally, in my evaluation, was you got to start Trey Lance as a rookie. You got to give him that opportunity. That's how I felt. Now, granted, the San Francisco 49ers went to the NFC Championship game. They again, we know what happened. They should have went to the Super Bowl, and if they go to the Super Bowl, whatever, woulda, coulda, shoulda, right? That's a story of our last 2 years. But they made it far, so the decision turned out to be correct. But if you want to be correct in the way of development, to me, it felt like you had to start Trey Lance as a rookie, give him the confidence, build the environment of belief around him, and allow him to go out and get those reps and work through the mistakes and go through those live deal with those live bullets and everything that comes along with it. And we would see him grow and develop as a result. But unfortunately, we've only seen Trey Lance in spot starts over 4 games in the first 2 years of his career. And so now we're in a wait and see period. And he's in year 3, still kind of in that rookie, like, this is where it becomes hard because now expectation starts to set in, right? You have Brock Purdy come in as a 7th round Mr. Irrelevant, play lights out, the best we've seen any quarterback operate Kyle Shanahan's scheme since Matt Ryan and the Atlanta Falcons. Now he's got to fight against that. He's got to fight against the fact that the team traded up 3 first-round picks to get him. So just like he says, this could get interesting. So nothing here to me is really new. This just feels like he's reiterated, everything that we've already kind of known. So that's that, in a nutshell, that's effectively what I think of the report, is that, I believe I could have wrote that article. I don't think there's really anything new to come from that. If you pull from everything that we've heard and all the players and the coaches and general managers and everything that he's said, that's where we're at. So it's going to be a big year for the San Francisco 49ers at the quarterback position. It really is. It's going to be a big year for Trey Lance. I even tweeted about this last night. Almost the same topic. Let me pull up the tweet. I think it was John Chapman, 49ers Rush podcast. He had put out a tweet that had said Trey Lance is younger than 11 of the top 14 projected quarterbacks in 2023, which is a crazy stat, considering Trey Lance has been in the NFL for 2 years, going on 3. But this is what I said. I said, in an alternate universe, Trey Lance is gearing up for his 3rd season as the 49ers starter. And we're talking about his Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts type jump year coming up. That, unfortunately, just didn't happen because of XYZ factors, right? So in a perfect, I think, quarterback development world where Trey Lance was given the opportunity, again, you trade 3 first-round picks for Trey Lance. You tell the entire world that Trey Lance is your franchise quarterback. You would expect that the team, whether they felt he was ready or not, like, you kind of understood where you were at that point. You know what I mean? Like, it was like, all right, we got this young guy. What's going to bring out his best development? In my opinion, it was letting him start year 1. And I remember covering that training camp, his rookie training camp. He probably played about on par with Jimmy Garoppolo. Honestly, like, Jimmy really picked it up down the stretch of training camp, and he got more dialed in. But Trey was still having a good training camp as a rookie. I actually believe, looking back, I think his rookie training camp might have been better than his sophomore training camp. And I don't have a reason why that would be, but the juice was there with Trey in that rookie training camp. And I was adamant, like, man, give it to Trey, man. Just let him run. Let him run with it. He's he's showing, good enough. He looks good enough that I think we got something here that we can work with. And again, I'm big on player development. I love player development. It's like a literal passion of mine. As someone who evaluates football, I love taking raw prospects and seeing how far you can push them. Your Aziz Al-Shairs, your Fred Warners, your George Kittles, um, your your Elijah Mitchells. These guys that aren't huge big name prospects, but then you can develop and pull the best out of them. I would have loved to see in the sense of quarterback development. Now, I there's two trains of thoughts here. And I think, I talked about this on Larry Krueger's show. Trey Lance, for his personal development, probably would have been better suited going to a team like the Bears. Nothing around him, zero expectation. They're going to put him out there. They're going to, the Bears, that's a terrible situation, but like the point being, the team that got him knew it was going to be a process. They're going to put him out there and they're going to build around him and live and die with that development. That's how I feel like what Trey needed. It's not what the 49ers needed. The 49ers were a ready-to-go machine, ready to win a Super Bowl. So it was a bit of a conflicting situation, right? Because I don't think Kyle was ready to have those types of bumps and bruises with a team that could win now. So I understand why they went with Jimmy. We should all be able to understand why they went with Jimmy. Jimmy took them, whether you like Jimmy or not, he was still captain of the ship, and they almost went to the Super Bowl. I think there were opportunities for Trey to take over. And again, I talk about this all the time, the butterfly effect, everything. I think Trey 100% could have taken the starting job over Arizona week 5, but he got hurt. And again, we listened to those. I know a lot of people really didn't like hearing John Lynch, talk about Trey needing to be healthy and that type of stuff. And I can understand that. I can rationalize why people wouldn't like him to say that. But I look back at those opportunities. I think Trey was really pushing for the starting job in his rookie training camp. He got hurt against the Raiders and he broke his finger. That was an issue that stuck with him all year. Then week 5, he gets a start, gets the knee sprain. I think Trey Lance absolutely would have started the following week against the Colts. I think he would have beat the Colts, and I think he would have kept the starting job. But again, butterfly effect. And then he gets a starting job this year. It's just a crappy timeline. It's just a crappy timeline. So there is an alternate universe where Trey started as a rookie and he started as a sophomore. And we're talking about Trey Lance heading into this year getting better, hitting with more efficiency, more consistency, developing those leadership tools and intangibles, all those things. But he's been put in this really weird situation where he's sandwiched in between Jimmy Garoppolo and Brock Purdy now. So it's a big offseason for Trey. I don't know if it's necessarily fair for Trey. But again, it's the NFL. It's not fair. The NFL is not fair. I know, I talk to my kids about this all the time. Like, we want things to be fair and down the middle, and be, whatever. Hold on a second. What's this? The 49ers are hiring Clint Kubiak to the top role on the 49ers offensive staff, replacing Bobby Slowick. Per sources, Kubiak, the former Vikings OC and Broncos quarterbacks coach, steps into a spot that has been a promotion factory. Slowick was the most recently becoming the 49ers head coach. So the San Francisco 49ers just hired Clint Kubiak to basically be the not officially the offensive coordinator, but essentially the offensive coordinator for the 49ers. All right. And we know Kyle Shanahan has heavy ties to the Kubiak family. He coached under his dad with the Texans. Clint has been someone who has been held in pretty high regard in league circles. So that's cool. We got some news. We got a new coach. All right, I got to get this out. The 49ers are hiring Clint Kubiak to a top role on the Niners offensive staff. Per Tom Pelissero. Are hiring former Vikings OC Broncos QB coach Clint Kubiak to top role on the Niners offensive staff. All right. Post Malone. All right. Not bad. Not bad at all. I like that hiring. I like that very much. That's a good one. So we replace a Slowick with the Kubiak. I'll take it. I will take it. I think that's a good move. Let's look into a little bit of Clint and his background. Let's get to know Clint a little bit more. So let's look at his previous history here. Nope, that's not what I want. We are going here. So this is his coaching history. As we know, his dad is Gary Kubiak, which Kyle Shanahan, I believe, got his coaching start under with the Texans. But as you can see, he was offensive quality control coach starting in 2010 for Texas A&M. graduate assistant. Then he went to the Minnesota Vikings for offensive quality control coach, wide receiver coach in 2015 with Kansas. Then goes to Denver Broncos to become an offensive assistant for 2 years. Then was the quarterback coach for the Minnesota Vikings. Then promoted to the offensive coordinator in 2021. And but they fired Zimmer and they gutted the whole staff. Then he went to the Denver Broncos, became the passing game coordinator and quarterbacks coach. So a little snapshot at the San Francisco 49ers, basically new offensive coordinator. So I'll take it. Do we judge him on Wilson's outcomes? I don't think so, because Nathaniel Hackett was the offensive coach on that team. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to assign blame to Nathaniel Hackett, because he was the offensive genius. He was the offensive minded head coach. So I'm going to go ahead and say we're not gonna put that on Clint. But yeah, we got some news. Let's go. I'll take it. Doesn't hurt one bit. Give Kyle another set of eyes, huh? Why not? So not bad. I like the hiring. Good move. Good family. Good football family. It's in his blood. It's in his blood. So I think that's a solid move. What are we at on with likes, huh? Where do we hit with our like goal? Oh, we didn't set a goal, but what do we hit on today? I'll take 100 off season. 100 works in the off season for sure. We cook with that. Smash that like button if you haven't already. Hit that sub button if you haven't already. All right, we got some new blood in the mix. So obviously Clint is going to be above Greasy. I think there was some talk about maybe Brian Fleury taking over that position. Clearly, Fleury's going to stay as the tight ends coach. Clint is going to replace Bobby Slowick. Slowick just became the Texans offensive coordinator. So good move. Good move. We'll take that. We will definitely take that. So just like we talked about, this is now one of the positives of Kyle Shanahan. He can attract and bring in good coaching and build good coaching staffs. So I think Clint is a quality. I think he's a quality coach, and if he does a really good job here in San Francisco, there's probably a good chance that he wouldn't be surprised if we're talking about him as either an OC next or potentially maybe even head coaching job, probably going back to OC, but still. Kyle Shanahan continues to prove that he builds good staffs. Brought in Steve Wilkes as the defensive coordinator, great hire, and also brings in Clint Kubiak to be passing game coordinator, and of course an offensive assistant, effectively the highest role in Kyle Shanahan's offensive coaching staff because Kyle is the OC effectively. So, yeah, this is great. I think that's a great move. I think it fits really well. And the 49ers are ready to cook. I'm loving it. I think it's going to be really interesting to see how he meshes in and fits in. But all things considered, I think it's a good hire. So 49ers continue to build and get better. Rebuild their staff. Next, it's going to be rebuild the roster. And also too, Clay, his brother, Clint's brother, Clay Kubiak, I think was on the San Francisco 49ers last year. So clearly the Kubiak family is tight with the Shanahans. So you got some continuity there. Let's see. So yeah, got some news today. Got some Smoke SZN today. And all that good stuff. So, good work today. Good work. '49ers keep getting better. So, looks like the staff has rounded out. And next step is building the roster. So, it's going to be very interesting to see what is done. And all that good stuff. So definitely looking forward to it all. Shout out to all you guys for tapping in today. Make sure you smash that like button if you haven't already. Hit that sub button if you haven't subbed yet. And of course, hit the noti bells. I would say so you never miss a live. But again, we know YouTube's got a mind of its own. We don't know if it's going to notify you or not. It's like a game. It's like a guessing game. We don't know if you're going to get notified, so make sure you smash it. And if you aren't getting notifications, I think what has worked is if you unsub and remember to resub and then smash the notification, that might help you out. But this is going to be the fun time of the year, baby. Get ready. And again, just want to let everyone know, we understand. Yes, that's a Garrison Hurst jersey right there. We understand. A lot of people are big fans of Trey. A lot of fans are big fans of Brock Purdy. But ultimately, at the end of the day, we are all fans of the San Francisco 49ers. And we all might not agree on everything. But remember, at the end of the day, we're fans of this team. And we want to see this team be successful. So we will have discourse. We'll talk about it all. And we'll survive. I promise you. I promise you. Try to leave the Jimmy Trey energy in the past. We can be for Trey, we can be for Purdy, but leave the Jimmy Trey energy in the past. Would we agree on that? Whoever's under center, winning us football games, let's go. And we'll give honest evaluations all the way through, good, bad, indifferent for both Brock or Trey. Doesn't matter. Just how we're going to move. So I know we like to get testy about it and call this guy a bust or trade that guy, this, that, the other. We don't need to do that. We just see. We just see what it's going to be. And at the end of the day, it's Niner gang to the death. And perfect timing. My co-host just woke up. And so just like that, that's going to be it for today. Shout out to all you guys, as always, especially during this off-season time as things start to kind of slow down a little bit. I do appreciate you guys even more for tapping into these shows, smashing that like button, engaging on all the content that we put out on all our platforms. Again, it helps me, and I appreciate you. And I'm going to keep trying to take my game to the next level, provide better content for you guys, more content for you guys, come up with new ways to share 49ers with you guys. So thank you so much for your continued support. And tomorrow's Friday, so we'll be back. The streets are talking that State of the Franchise is on Friday. I don't know. You might have to tune in, see what we're talking about. Could be, could not be. I don't know. Shout out to all you guys, though. Y'all the best. Shout out to the SDS. Grab your cookies on the way out because you know the vibes. Like yeast, we rise, baby. Appreciate you all. And that's it for today. I'll see y'all tomorrow. Peace. Smash that like button if you haven't already. Love to see it.